Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a brilliant chess battle packed with tactics, strategy, and surprises. Let's dive right in. Goryachkina opens with d4, claiming the center boldly while signaling her intent to dominate the early battle with precise control. Wesley So responds with nf6, developing calmly and eyeing central squares with a calculated, defensive but flexible strategy. Goryachkina pushes c4, expanding influence and preparing for central tension that could force Wesley to make careful, precise moves. Wesley plays e6, forming a sturdy barrier while keeping options open for bishop development and potential counterplay on the queen's side. Goryachkina develops nf3, reinforcing her central hold and enabling quick coordination between her pawns, knights, and bishop for future attacks. Wesley responds with b6, preparing to fianchetto the bishop and challenge White's central ambitions with long-range pressure. Goryachkina plays g3, initiating the fianchetto plan to control key diagonals and solidify her kingside defense before castling. Wesley develops b6, immediately targeting White's c4 pawn and creating tension on the queenside while preparing tactical threats. Goryachkina moves k4, putting pressure on the a6 bishop and simultaneously eyeing opportunities for early tactical strikes. Wesley retreats b7, maintaining long diagonal influence while solidifying the queenside and preparing to counter central advances. Goryachkina fianchettos her bishop to g2, aiming in at the long diagonal and increasing control over central and kingside dark squares. Wesley strikes in the center with c5, challenging White's pawn structure and forcing potential exchanges that could open files. Goryachkina captures dx5, testing Wesley's readiness to maintain tension and trying to provoke weaknesses in Black's setup. Wesley recaptures bxf5, opening the b-file while restoring material balance and creating potential avenues for his rooks. Goryachkina castles kingside, securing her monarch and signaling readiness for middle-game maneuvers and central operations. Wesley develops b7 and preparing to castle while keeping defensive options flexible and ready to meet White's central threats. Goryachkina plays r-don, aligning her rook with the d-file and preparing for central file control and tactical possibilities. Wesley castles kingside, safeguarding his king and enabling coordinated activity for his rooks and minor pieces. Goryachkina develops nc3, strengthening control over d5 and b5 squares, while improving piece coordination for future operations. Wesley moves q6, targeting b2 and exerting pressure on White's queenside, while preparing tactical threats. Goryachkina plays bf4, developing actively, defending critical squares, and setting up potential exchanges on the d-file. Wesley responds r8, contesting the central file and preparing for dynamic pressure against White's pieces. Goryachkina doubles rooks with rd2, increasing central file strength and signaling aggressive intentions in the middle game. Wesley advances 6, fortifying central control while preparing to mobilize pieces for tactical or strategic operations. Goryachkina brings Radone. Further contesting the central files, and reinforcing the pressure against black's setup. Wesley plays h6. Creating luft for his king, and preparing to reposition pieces, without weaknesses on the king side. Goryachkina repositions the queen to qb3, improving activity and maintaining central and queenside pressure. Wesley maneuvers n8, repositioning his knight for defense and preparing to counter central threats effectively. Goryachkina pushes g4, expanding on the king's side and beginning a pawn storm to challenge Wesley's structural integrity. Wesley responds with g5, countering aggressively and restricting white's pawns while opening lines for tactical opportunities. Goryachkina repositions neo1, reinforcing defensive coverage and preparing for tactical reactions against black's g5 pawn. Wesley captures bxg2, eliminating the fianchetto bishop and forcing white's king into immediate defensive action. Goryachkina recaptures kxdt2, centralizing the king, but accepting vulnerability as the board opens further. Wesley shifts rb6, activating the rook along the b-file and preparing for coordinated queenside pressure. Goryachkina plays na4, challenging the rook and creating potential tactical threats while improving knight positioning, dit-down. Wesley doubles rooks with rb7, consolidating control and increasing pressure along the b-file against white's queenside. Goryachkina repositions nc3, maintaining central presence and preparing to counter black's increasing queenside dominance. Wesley develops nf6, bringing the knight into active play and coordinating defense with offensive possibilities. Goryachkina plays ra1, preparing rook activity on the a-file and maintaining tension on the queen side. Wesley pushes a6, restricting knight maneuvers and preparing to expand queenside control with precision and patience. Goryachkina advances bf2, stabilizing central squares while preparing coordinated defense against Wesley's growing queenside pressure. Wesley strikes f5, challenging the center directly and signaling a shift toward aggressive, tactical play that could break white's structure. Goryachkina moves nd2, repositioning her knight for defense and aiming to contest central squares as tension builds. Wesley develops ndx, centralizing the knight for both defensive support and tactical threats against white's pawns and pieces. Goryachkina exchanges nx6, removing the active black knight, while temporarily easing central pressure and seeking stability. Wesley recaptures res d6, controlling the open file and threatening to penetrate white's position with coordinated rook activity. Goryachkina activates nf4, eyeing central squares and creating tactical possibilities against black's aligned rooks and pawns. Wesley moves r8, doubling pressure along the open d-file and preparing to exploit weaknesses in white's pawn structure. Goryachkina plays nd2, retreating to regroup and prepare defenses as Wesley's rooks dominate the central and queenside files. Wesley maneuvers kg7, stepping the king to safety while coordinating with rooks for the upcoming tactical storm. Goryachkina brings ra1, aligning the rook on the a-file and looking to create counterplay along open lines. Wesley advances Kegisnix, centralizing the king for both defensive coverage and support in potential attacking operations. Goryachkina pushes e4, trying to challenge black's center and create threats before Wesley completes his coordination. Wesley responds f3, closing critical squares and preparing tactical strikes aimed at exploiting the kingside weaknesses. Goryachkina plays r-Dawn, doubling rooks on the d-file to resist Wesley's central control and prepare counterattacks. Wesley maneuvers rb7, innen und f7, activating the rook on the 7th rank and maintaining maximum pressure on white's camp. Goryachkina repositions nd2 fu, trying to stabilize the position and prevent tactical breakthroughs from black's well-coordinated pieces. Wesley strikes d4, opening the center forcefully and creating immediate tactical threats that white must respond to precisely. Goryachkina plays f3, securing key central squares and attempting to prevent black's pawns and pieces from invading. Wesley develops n6, placing a dominant knight in the heart of white's camp and increasing tactical possibilities. Goryachkina captures in st6, removing black's active knight and momentarily relieving central pressure. Wesley recaptures st6, keeping the rook on an active file and threatening to penetrate deeper into white's position. Goryachkina moves n4, centralizing the knight and creating potential tactical threats against black's advanced pawns. Wesley pushes c8, doubling rooks and asserting unchallenged control over the central d-file. Goryachkina plays nb5, trying to challenge black's rook and seeking opportunities to disrupt coordination. Wesley maneuvers k5, wo and Frühstehen am Sternchen, consolidating the king's safety while preparing final tactical operations on both flanks. Goryachkina plays b7, attempting to pressure black's pieces and create counterplay despite a cramped position. Wesley responds rate, aligning the rook for pressure along the a-file and preparing coordinated attacks against white's pawns. Goryachkina retreats n8, repositioning defensively to prevent black's pieces from penetrating critical squares. Wesley develops bj3, controlling important diagonals and threatening to undermine white's central pawn structure. Goryachkina doubles rooks with rd8, reinforcing central file defense and bracing for black's upcoming breakthroughs. Wesley reroutes n-bone, preparing tactical jumps and targeting weaknesses along white's queenside. Goryachkina pushes d3, aiming to challenge black's central pawns and generate activity for her pieces. Wesley advances f3, restricting white's key squares and preparing to convert central dominance into decisive tactical gains. Goryachkina plays rb5, attempting to contest open files and counter black's growing pressure along the b-file. Wesley strikes f5, opening central lines with force and threatening to infiltrate white's defenses. Goryachkina repositions nd2, defending critical squares and seeking survival under increasing tactical tension. Wesley moves n6, controlling vital central squares and positioning for an unstoppable attack on white's structure. Goryachkina captures nscd6, eliminating the dominant black knight, but leaving other pieces highly exposed. Wesley recaptures re-sticks, keeping the rook on an open file and increasing pressure toward white's vulnerable pawns and king. Goryachkina plays nd2o, repositioning defensively to protect key squares while attempting to slow Wesley's relentless attack. Wesley maneuvers kg7 penbenogo showboyage, stepping his king into safety and coordinating with rooks for the final decisive operations on both flanks. Goryachkina pushes Raone, aligning her rook on the a-file and trying desperately to contest open lines against black's domination. Wesley advances kj6, centralizing the king to support his pieces and prepare for the crushing tactical sequence ahead. Goryachkina develops bf6, aiming to pressure black's position and create last-minute threats before her defenses collapse. Wesley responds rebate, activating his rook to dominate the b-file and prepare decisive tactical breakthroughs. Goryachkina pushes e4, attempting to open central lines and generate counterplay before Wesley converts his material advantage. Wesley strikes h4, beginning a kingside assault that threatens to break white's remaining pawn shield and expose her king. Goryachkina plays d3 chunt, delivering a check to delay Wesley's plan while searching for defensive resources in a deteriorating position. Wesley captures kxd3, marching his king boldly into the center, signaling total control and readiness to execute tactical blows. Goryachkina plays gxh4, removing the advanced pawn while trying to create complications that could temporarily hinder black's attack. Wesley responds bx5, eliminating a key defender and maintaining dominance over open files and weak squares in white's camp. Goryachkina pushes bg5, aiming to create tactical threats along diagonals and challenge black's coordination. Wesley moves r7, doubling rooks and increasing central and queenside pressure while restricting white's defensive options. Goryachkina advances ci5, attempting counterplay by opening lines. Despite Wesley's overwhelming control, Wesley plays rb5, applying direct pressure along the b-file and threatening to invade white's queenside pawns. Goryachkina activates kc4, marching her king in a desperate attempt to aid her defensive coordination. Wesley strikes rb4 ut, delivering a sharp check and forcing Goryachkina's king further into a vulnerable position. Goryachkina blocks with kc3, trying to escape the check but walking into the tightening net of Wesley's rooks. Wesley continues rb7, reinforcing his rooks and preparing to deliver final tactical blows that white can scarcely parry. Goryachkina plays raf4, attempting last-ditch resistance and pressure along open files to distract black's coordination. Wesley captures bxdst2, eliminating a crucial defender and exposing white's king even further. Goryachkina recaptures kxd2, opening herself to more threats but keeping material balance temporarily. Wesley plays rxb3, seizing material and consolidating his dominance while preparing to crush white's remaining defenses. Goryachkina brings ra4, activating her rook to create counterplay, despite facing imminent positional collapse. Wesley captures Rx after 3, removing White's defender and continuing a precise, unrelenting attack on her exposed king. Goryachkina moves Red Wool, attempting to generate threats along the second rank as her last hope to survive. Wesley stacks RB3, doubling rooks to intensify pressure, cutting off White's king escape routes and reinforcing tactical dominance. Goryachkina plays b-fight, zaking counterplay with a final piece activation. Though Black's control is overwhelming, Wesley jumps NB4 nuller, threatening multiple infiltration points and ensuring White's king cannot find safety. Goryachkina responds Rxas hex 6p, delivering a fleeting check to delay the inevitable while hoping for a tactical opportunity. Wesley calmly plays Key J5, centralizing his king and coordinating pieces for the final mating net. Goryachkina moves Re3, desperately contesting the A-file and creating minor threats against Wesley's rooks. Wesley captures Expeditorganisation, winning material and forcing White's king into the open with no real shelter. Goryachkina advances K3, moving into an increasingly precarious position under Black's relentless pressure. Wesley continues Rxbd2 contain, dominating open lines and removing last defenders, shielding White's king. Goryachkina moves K3, attempting survival, but walking into the inevitable tactical collapse. Wesley plays Rxbd2 keeping maximum pressure and ensuring that no counterplay remains for White. Goryachkina responds Kd5, a futile attempt to fight back while her pieces are dominated and king is exposed. Wesley strikes Rxbd2 tenon, consolidating material advantage and tightening the final net around White's king. Goryachkina tries Kg5, desperately looking for last-moment complications, though position is fully lost. Wesley delivers Rxb2 tuned in, completing the crushing victory as White's position collapses entirely, ending the game 0-1 dark time. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.